I'm Dr. Kelly Reyna. I am the director of the Ted and Donna Lyon Center for Game Bird Research at Texas A&M University Commerce. I'm here with Ted and Donna Lyon, who just recently gave the largest gift in Texas A&M University Commerce history for the naming of the Ted and Donna Lyon Center and professorships and fellowships to help our program grow. Ted and Donna, can you share with us what motivated your passion for hunting and conservation?
My dad was a big conservationist and hunter, and he probably was the motivating factor in my life. He believed in observing every game law and taking care of the animals that were harvested. Things like we don't shoot more than 3-4 birds out of a covey. Back in the day, there were a lot of quail all around this part of the country, and I grew up not very far from here. And so that was very important for me. Living the life that I lived, growing up, we camped out almost every weekend, and we hunted during the seasons almost every weekend. So, and I was out in the woods a lot by myself, learning about nature. My dad would take me when I was just a little boy and let me loose, you know? And so I learned how important it was to hear a dove coo, to hear a bobwhite quail whistle, to see ducks flying over, and that was just my love of my life. And so conservation to me is a protection of those assets for people in the future, and that's what really motivated me.
Your story about your father dropping you off at the lake for duck hunting has always been one of my favorites. Can you tell me what kind of impact that had on you and how you think that could impact the youth going forward?
Well, there was an old city lake outside of Terrell, Texas, and I grew up on the outside of Terrell, and then we moved to Tawakoni later on when it was first built, Lake Tawakoni. So when we lived on the outskirts of Terrell, he would take me out there at 5:30 or 6 in the morning, and drop me off. I had a sack of old canvas decoys, a 12-gauge shotgun, and he might pick me up at noon. It would be predetermined, or he might pick us up at dark at 5:30 or 6. And a lot of times I had another kid that would go with me, but we just stayed out there all day. We'd take whatever, apples, cheese, some bread, and that was it. And we cooked ducks out there on the shoreline, and we were allowed to run wild and enjoy the wild out there. And there were all kinds of different animals out there. It was a really, really cool place. That was back before most of the big lakes were built. So ducks flowed into that place by the thousands.
I think that's so important for youth to get involved in conservation and just get outdoors and explore things like that. I really appreciate those stories. You and Donna both have a lot of success personally and professionally. You've raised an incredible family. Y'all have raised several businesses that I'm sure are like children to you. How has hunting and conservation influenced your personal and professional life?
When I was in the legislature, I was in the legislature for a lot of years, 15 years of service. I worked on every single wildlife conservation issue that came before the Texas legislature. I initiated scientific management of wild game in Texas back in 1982. I was one of the key sponsors of a bill that banned the netting of redfish and trout on the Texas coast against great opposition in 1979. I was very involved with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in mandating that Texas and all other, Texas in particular, put covers over pits at oil fields because 100,000 ducks were killed a year in pits at oil fields. The industry fought us. I passed it in the Senate. But then I had the Clinton administration. They passed it as an environmental rule. So now when you go into Texas, you see all the oil pits are covered. That saves 100,000 ducks a year.
That's incredible.
So those kind of things influence me from a legislative point of view, and influence me with every single thing that I've done in my life. I've been involved in many environmental lawsuits. I've been involved in conservation of elk and mule deer in Montana, Idaho, Utah, throughout the Mountain West. And it's been very fulfilling for me. Most of that stuff, you do it for free. All of it, you do it for free. And I represented 13 wildlife conservation groups in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in California to uphold the wolf delisting bill, which enabled those states to manage wolves. There was no management of wolves, so they were getting way out of control. So those kind of things have sort of permeated my life. We're looking at other things we can do. This center, to me, is going to be a legacy to my family and our history in hunting and conservation.
Well, we're so appreciative of your gift at the Lyon Center for Game Bird Research. And one thing people always want to know is what motivated you to give such a transformational gift to the university and to start this center?
Well, as my good friend John Sharp says, the only person that made that decision was Miss Donna here. And without her, she supported all of my efforts throughout the years. I wouldn't have been able to have done this. And she's certainly been the best thing that ever happened in my life. And she's just been just a supporter all the way. And she loves the wildlife. She and I spent 23 days camped out in the Serengeti Plains one time. She hunted with me in Idaho one time. We rode horses 22 miles back to a wooden cabin, a log cabin that was built 100 years before. And we stayed up there for a week. And she's just been tough, and she's one of the best rifle shots I've ever seen. And she's an incredible sportswoman herself. She loves the outdoors. She loves to fish. We fish all over the world.
Mm-hmm. But I learned early on that if I didn't participate, I might not see him very much. So that was a choice I had to make. Because he was going to go hunting. So I could either stay home with the kids or I could go with him. So that's how I started hunting. Because I grew up totally different. My family didn't fish, hunt, camp, or anything. So when I started dating him, the first, he took me on a duck hunt. You remember this. He goes, it's real easy. Just have to go out there. Just follow me. We're going to jump a tank. So he goes, okay, get down real low. You have to crawl. So he's crawling and everything, and I'm crawling. And finally, I thought, I'm not going to do this. So I stood up. So he's like still crawling, and the ducks start flying everywhere.
No, the ducks were so slowly swimming away, and I'm going, what is going on? Look at them, they're swimming away. I'd crawl some more. I finally got down on my hands and knees, and I was on my hands and knees, and I was crawling almost on my belly, and I looked behind me, and Donna's standing up straight.
He goes, what are you doing? I go, that was too hard. So that was my first duck hunt.
So,
Well, what some people may not know is y'all been dating for a while. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah.
yeah. I started chasing her when she was in 8th grade, and I was
We were high school sweethearts.
Yeah, we were high school sweethearts.
Y'all grew up in Terrell, Texas, and then, as I understand it, Ted, you went to Texas A&M University in Commerce under the name of East Texas State University. And what would you say to future alumni, or really current alumni too, about the Lyon Center and how they can support, or why they should support that center?
Well, I think that's like a lot of universities, that particular place plays a real role for kids from Northeast Texas. It's well known for its agricultural department. It's well known for its educational department. I got the list of every single alumni in just Rockwall County, and there's 6,000 ex-students that live here. Most of the teachers went to school up there. And so it's had a huge impact in education, and it's just going to get better and better as the future goes along. I think having that university helped me, in particular some of the professors there, was just invaluable because both Donna and I were poor as dirt. I mean, real poor. And so we came from families that were good families, and they put food on the table every night, and we had a huge garden, and we raised chickens, pigs, pigeons, calves, and things of that nature to feed the family. But all of those things combined with that little school, which was real little at the time that I went there. I think they had 6,000 students. And now they have over 14,000. I mean, it's the fastest growing university in the state.
That's right.
So I think it's such an amazing accomplishment for that little school that the legislature tried to shut down in 1983. So it's a great accomplishment for the people that work there. All those kids that are up there, they're like we were. A lot of them are poor, and they are getting an education. They're going to go on and blossom, and they're going to change the world. It's wonderful to see it.